Today I'm reviewing a really interesting game with a great name, and that is Deliver Us the Moon. Made by Kyokan Interactive, the game has just come out on consoles in the last week. This puzzle and exploration game sees you jetting up towards the stars to save Earth from a doomed fate. So the premise is that it's the 2050s, global warming has happened, everything has gone wrong, all the fuel's been burned up, the Earth's a husk, a shadow of its former self. However, Earth had been managing to sustain itself with a new power source, helium, that they managed to extract from the moon and shoot back to Earth via microwave transmission, and all of that was fine. Until the blackout. Now this event is what the whole game centres around. One day, the fuel transmission stopped and all contact with the space station and the colonies down on the moon's surface was lost. Without this, the Earth has returned to a terrible situation. It's been 5 years since that event, and your job is to go up there and try and sort out the power problem and find out where the hell everybody is. This is the last chance for humanity and the last possible ship an independent group of scientists has managed to cobble together. It's all on you. Now if that sounds like a lot of story I rattled off, well that's kind of the point. This game is all about the story. Now that can seem like a pretty vague statement. Aren't all games? Most games have story, but the game here is the story. Piecing together bit by bit what's happened quickly becomes the driving force of the game. Yes, you still need to try and figure out this power situation, but quickly advancing with that task and through the bases becomes a vessel for this much more intriguing and mysterious situation. Mixing both first and third person perspectives, the game tasks you with working your way through many puzzles to try and save the Earth. First you have to pilot and launch your rocket with its intricate controls, then you're floating around a space station attempting to restore its gravity and air. Later you'll be firmly on the floor, but blocked off by a failing power supply and locked doors. Vehicles, moonwalks, collapsed buildings. I wouldn't need 2 hands to count what is working for you when you first arrive. Whilst that sounds like a lot of variety, often Deliver Us the Moon can be very repetitive. Conceptually this obviously makes sense. There is not power, things will be broken, and it wouldn't be much of a game if you just strolled through with no obstacles. It's just that often it feels like the exact same obstacle every time. You'll need to go through a door, it will be locked, it will need power. This is probably close to 70% of the gameplay. I actually think that the way the puzzles progress is good. You learn a skill and the next puzzle will usually incorporate that skill plus a new one. This happens pretty steadily until the puzzles at the end of the game have you combining timing, pathway navigation, environmental hazards, etc. I just wish there was a little more imagination with some of these than opening a door or retrieving fuel cells. It can be a little bit stale and make you want to just power through it for the next narrative beat rather than enjoying the moment. Highlights for me were the zero gravity space station beginning section, which for my money could be the most realistic zero gravity has ever been presented in a game. I just wish there was this much creativity consistent throughout the game, and the outdoor vehicle sections were also very good, as it was just so fun and freeing to explore the surface. You gain the ability to control the ASE unit during the game. This cute floating ball, giving off serious Portal 2 Wheatley vibes to me, allows you to access rooms through vents and such you wouldn't be able to, and interact with electrical interfaces. It doesn't speak, and during gameplay it doesn't do anything to endear itself to you. It's basically just another tool for a bit of added puzzle variation. But just having it around in such a cold, lonely place bonds you to it quickly. And in a couple of cutscenes I was taken off guard by how much meaning could be conjured up by the tiniest interaction, the joy of being ever so slightly less alone. It also gives you access to past recordings and holograms that you'll periodically come across and can give insight into what has happened in that room. The voice acting is top notch and brilliantly conveys every emotion as if it was happening in that moment. It's hard not to get caught up in the optimism, fear and sadness of these recordings. You have to remind yourself that they are echoes of which you are powerless to influence. The silhouettes are featureless and blocky, with neon jagged edges. The contrast of this to the shape of yourself on the world around them is a lovely touch, reiterating that you are physically alone, despite the comforting voices. What this game does really well is underline just how alone you are. It takes a while to shake the feeling that something may be lurking just out of sight or watching you every time you turn your back. In some sense, being completely isolated is a much more terrifying prospect. A lot of this comes down to its great sound design. You yourself are a mute and faceless protagonist, a walking helmet. Often the game is so quiet, all you can hear are the clinks from your spacesuit on the shiny space station floor. It's an eerie feeling having your footsteps echo around the hallways, the only feedback of life coming when you move. The difference in sound between being inside and out in space is also great. The muffled vibrations really give you the sense of being out in the void and surrounded by the danger it poses. Because of its general understated use of sound, it makes it a lot more intense when sirens wail and howl to indicate danger, and emotional or rousing moments that much more impactful with a rise from the score. The game is hauntingly beautiful. Although it's not graphically amazing, it just perfectly conveys what it wants to do. Most of its efforts are put into the shadows and lighting, and it's poignant. Essentially, the game is about restoring light from darkness, whether that's literally restoring light and power to the station and Earth, or metaphorically shining light on the secrets that have been left in the dark. I do remember an early cutscene where you're looking down at Earth from your rocket and thinking, God, that looks bad. But nothing past that made me question the graphics at all. Unfortunately, the game's performance really lets it down at times. The frame rate was so reduced at points that it became a slog to play through. It actually made me feel a little unwell as I tried to whip my head around the room and figure out how to solve the puzzle. It's a shame, and it doesn't seem like it had to be like that. The moments it happened to me, it didn't seem to me like there was any huge complexity going on. Definitely no visuals that would cause it, and most of it was still. I also found this audio tick really awful when it came around on the soundtrack, like a popping, clicking noise as if the audio was peaking. Maybe it was intended as part of the atmosphere. I didn't like it. Summing it up, Deliver Us the Moon is an ambitious game that succeeds in telling a heart-wrenching story in a new and imaginative way. Its delivery makes you think you know what's going on from quite early on, and you probably won't be far wrong, but the twist that it does deliver tells such a human story that will stay with you. Puzzles are engaging, if a little repetitive in terms of their objective. The first hour feels constantly fresh and exciting, but that consistent ingenuity feels like it dips after that, only peaking back up to that level a couple more times. The game's atmosphere and feeling of solitude really does sit with you whilst you're playing, and the sound design, especially with headphones, really puts you in the character's space shoes. Unfortunately, the occasional spikes in poor performances will have you crashing back down to Earth. I give Deliver Us the Moon a 7 out of 10. Have you played this game? What did you think? Let me know in the comment section below, and if you enjoyed the video, please consider liking and subscribing. See you later.